like a news reporter with my notes and everything. So I've been thinking about my next video on the channel and what it's going to be about. And because I want to make this a part of documenting my process, I think that it's important for me to start from the beginning. Yeah, well, from the very, not the beginning of my life, because that's a lot of years. From the beginning of my process. Yeah, I'd like to say, yeah, the beginning of my process. And the beginning of my process, now that I think about it, or when I think about it, is when I decided that I was going to be an accountant. That is, for me, I think the beginning, because a lot of how my life has turned out was because of that decision that I made at a very young age. Well, not very, but yeah, at a young age. So this is going to be a story time, and yeah, I'm sitting comfy, closer to the ground. Ooh, that was an unintentional zoom. Closer to the ground in the earth. My laptop is on. Yeah, closer to the ground, no frills, nothing, just a good old story time. So yes, in case you didn't know, merch by yeah. So story time says a story time begins when I decided that I wanted to study accounting. So the reason I decided to become an accountant or study accounting was because I read an article in, I think it was 2006, that was highlighting the shortage of accountants, chartered accountants to be specific, in South Africa. And I thought to myself, yeah, I'm gonna do that, because why? I love a challenge. And also, you know, why a bishop decon? Took it upon myself to add to the numbers. And yeah, 2006 was a defining moment for me, because that's when I decided that I'm gonna change my life, bro. I mean, at the time I didn't know I was going to change my life, but that was the changing moment, or the moment of change. So yeah, 2006, I decided that, you know what, I'm gonna be that girl. And 2006, and it was done. 2006, yeah, I was in standard 6, grade 8. Yeah, that's what. And yeah, basically continued to do a high school, and obviously chose the accounting stream in high school, and accounting was boxing me, okay? Boxing me. I remember I had I had a run-in with the accounting teacher, whose name shall not be mentioned, and satatana we to no gelizwa, because yeah, story for another day. And so I went on to high school and chose the accounting stream, and yeah, grade 11 accounting boxed me. And in grade 11, actually, I was already thinking about universities, which university I would go to. And I wrote letters to the top 3 that I would go study to. And that was in 2009. Yes, 2009. I wrote letters. I was like, "Dear Nelson Mandela Metropolitan University," because that's what it was at the time, I would like to come study there. I'd like to find out, like, it was, you know, is it BBC? BC? Before computers. I mean, computers were there, but writing was what was relevant to me at the time, because I wrote a lot. Like, I wrote poems, I wrote short stories that will never see the light of day. I wrote stuff. Anyway, so I wrote letters to those universities. There was Nelson Mandela Metropolitan University. I wrote to UCT. I wrote to Rhodes. I wrote to... No, I'm lying. I wrote to Rhodes. I wrote to UCT. And I can't remember the third one that I wrote to. Monash. I wrote to Monash because I was so obsessed with Monash. And but a little Google search here and there landed me at Monash University. I wrote them a letter. DCT, I want to study accounting there, and I would like to know more about the universities. And they replied to me with their prospectus, and basically the prospectus had everything about the university. and they encouraged me to apply. University of Cape Town, I think they wanted 150 as an application fee at the time. Monash was ridiculous, like 250. It was more expensive than the others. I know. I later found out how expensive Monash is. And then the third one, I can't remember what happened, but yeah, it was 100 rand, 150, and then Monash was the most expensive one. So told my mom, I was like, hey Baba, I want to study this thing here at this university. And she was like, okay, and that was in grade 11. I got my things and I used my, well, we were encouraged to use, yes, because it was around June when I applied. They were like, I wrote the letter, that is, they said that I would have to wait for I would apply using my June grade 11. No, I would apply using my grade 11 final results, and then I would use my grade 12 June results or send them in when I got them. Something along those lines would. Anyway, that's not the moral of the story. So I did that application and I sent it through. And then I went into matric, right, with dismal accounting marks at that because I was going through a lot in accounting. I was doing well in all my other subjects, but accounting in bumping or bongo something like this. So I went on to my matric and got good results except for accounting. And yes, that is when I decided to go see I'm going to varsity. Turn of events happens. I couldn't go to UCT after I applied because my mom was like, it's too far, blah blah blah. Why not go to a place that's close by? For context, I matriculated in Umtata. So for her, what was close by was Port Elizabeth, even in Monty. But then at the time, I didn't know about, like, I wasn't clued up. In fact, not even clued up, because now I had my mind set on what? Cape Town. Glad I didn't go though. Went to study. What am I saying? Yeah. So she advised, more like insisted, that I study closer to home. And by closer to home, she meant Port Elizabeth, where I was born physically, and that I would stay with family and I wouldn't have to worry about basically starting from scratch like I would have if I went to Cape Town. And she ended up making some calls to her friends in Cape Town, but anyway, I ended up going to NMU, or Nelson Mandela University. I get there. In fact, before I even got there, oh Sana, the struggles. I was calling each and every institution I could at the time, trying to score myself a scholarship or a bursary, a bazar. I wanted to score myself a bazari. But yeah, they were like, yeah, no, you don't have straight A's, so like, can't help you. And I didn't get a buzzer. Then I heard about NSFAS and I was like, yeah. And Mama used to call it UTEPSA. Apparently that's what it was called at the time, way back when. BCCCC, before computers, commerce and Wi-Fi and everything. So yeah, I hopped onto this NSFAS thing and they're like, oh yeah, great, we'd like to give you a loan with interest. Finding that out when at registration, by the way. NSFAS financial aid, they called it financial aid. Story for another day. I applied for NSFAS and I got it, and I was on the road to who? University, and I thought those are my biggest hurdles. Anywho, so yeah, I went to university. I studied accounting. I got my degree and I went on to work. And I think that's where my life changed. Like, there's a lot of, the nice thing about this documentation of the process, it's actually allowing me to go back and look at some of the moments that were changing my life at the time that I didn't think were changing my life. Like, I just thought there were things that were happening at the time, but they were actually changing my life and the trajectory of my life. And yeah, it's gonna be a fun it's gonna be a fun Yeah. It's gonna be a fun trip down memory lane, putting this together. And yeah, I'm hoping that I can film as much as I can in one sitting, so that there's not a lot of editing to do. I don't know if I should do this in parts. I think I should do it in parts so that it's more digestible. Yeah. So this would be, yeah, this is part one of the life journey of choosing accounting. I don't even know what I called it, why I chose accounting, or how choosing accounting changed my life. Yeah, that's what it is. How choosing to study accounting changed my life. Stay tuned for part two.